12th at 10:30 a.m. And we'll go ahead and start the first State Government Policy, Finance, and Elections Committee hearing for 2021. So welcome, everybody. Glad to have you on board. It looks like it's snowing out there as well, which wasn't forecast, but that seems to do it at any rate. I have a message here. I'm going to read it out loud. Alec, maybe you see it. He's using our personal laptop and it isn't letting me change the name here. Can you change the name for Senator Fateh?
I can work on that.
All right. In the meantime, then the Mohammed is for Senator Fateh in the meantime. Okay, wonderful. So is everybody, have we taken care of any technical issues? They'll work on the name thing, but otherwise it appears as though we have our, I find it's hard, you know, at the committee table, you can look down and see who's here, but on these tiles, and as soon as somebody logs off and logs back on, the tiles all change. So always a challenge to find, are you still here or where did you move to? Okay, we'll just go ahead and get started then. One of the things that, other than just glad to have you all on board and welcome, we have several new members of the State Gov Committee. As many of you know, the committee structure due to social distancing and other things, they were made smaller in order to accommodate in-person committee hearings and to have room. And so it's not ideal and that can change in the future. However, it is what we are able to do for today. But we appreciate that. One of the things also is to go over a few things that we've been given tips in regards to Zoom committee hearings. And they're attempting to create some uniformity for Zoom hearing. Each committee has their own Zoom account and the settings are preset for more professionalism and safety purposes. So that's governed through the Senate. Please make sure your audio is on mute until you're ready to speak. Everybody seems to have got that one down. Members, please keep your video on, even if you aren't speaking, unless you need to step away for a bit. Since testifiers are there to speak directly to you, we want to be sure we give them all the attention that they deserve in front of our committee. Please use the raise hand feature if you would like to speak. Alec Bjorn is our CLA, Committee Legislative Administrator. He'll consistently monitor that function to make sure that I will know that there is somebody who wants to speak and we will communicate. The group chat feature has been disabled, but you're still able to send the host, Alec Bjorn, a private chat at any time. And to minimize technological glitches, plug your computer in when using Zoom. And Senator Limmer yesterday did a very nice job of informing us all of that as I am new to his committee. Lo and behold, I got a low battery notice and the laptop appeared to be plugged in, but it actually wasn't. So those things do happen. And this was in the Senate, not my home computer, but it was in the Senate on those little click it in kind of a thing. So that is understandable that that was the situation. Okay, for our agenda today, we're going to start out, we thought with so many new members that it's always good to start out with just getting acquainted with who we all are, our roles and our positions. And so we're going to be doing that one of the very first things. Alec, I thought my agenda was in the actual calendar. It appears it is not right now. Let me check again. So I know I got an agenda, approved an agenda. I just need to have the actual agenda for me right now. So Christina, can you text it to me or get it to me somehow, some way? Because we do have a list that we worked on. Okay, I got it here. Thank you very much. One of the things that they also encouraged that I thought was good in Judiciary Committee was, wherever possible, to print off the material that you can, and that can be helpful as well. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead. I don't know if some of you know, but my Senate district is Senate District 30. That includes the eastern part of Sherburne and Wright County. Many people are familiar with the Outlet Mall in Albertville on Interstate 94. That's in my district on the south end. And on the north eastern part of Sherburne County is Big Lake and Elk River. That's a little bit my district. I live in Big Lake, married to my husband, Ralph, and 4 kids and some grandkids, and very much enjoy serving in the Senate and appreciate all of you. And I know the work it takes to get to be sitting even in front of this camera or in the committee or on the session floor. So we do appreciate the work it took and where it's at, and you're here and have earned that responsibility and ability to be a state senator. So I appreciate all of you. The next thing we're going to do is Senate committee members, and I'll alternate. I'm going to start with the vice chair of the committee, Jeff Howe, if you would go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thank you. I'm Senator Jeff Howe. I served Senate District 13, which basically wraps around the city of St. Cloud. Most people know where that's at. So I live in Rockville, which is a little town just 10 miles outside of St. Cloud. And it is a pleasure to be on the State Gov Finance Committee once again, and to serve as, it's an honor to serve as the vice chair, and I look forward to continuing the work. I served for I think 2 terms over in the House on this committee, so I'm very familiar with it. So I look forward to continuing our work on the State Gov.
Thank you, Senator Howe. Next, we'll go to Senator Carlson, who is the minority lead on the State Government Finance Policy and Elections Committee. So Senator Carlson, welcome back. Glad to see you here. You and I am working with Christina on a scheduling for you where we'll have more of a conversation. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and pleased to be here. Pleased to be on your committee again. And it seems like we always are on similar committees for several years. I hear you're on transportation again, which I think we sat next to each other for quite some time in the past.
Right, we did.
And I'm looking forward to having some really good discussions in this committee. And I represent District 51, which I generally call Area 51 because it is a little bit freaky. And it belongs, or it covers the area of Burnsville, about a third of Burnsville and most of Eagan, save 1 precinct in Eagan. And I'm entering my 13th year in the Senate. And it's been a real pleasure to represent the people of Eagan in the South Metro. And I'm very interested in election policies and, and of course, state government, and making sure that we can promote the best state government that we can possibly have here in Minnesota. So I thank you and appreciate seeing all of you, especially the new members, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Senator Carlson. With that, we'll go to Senator Curran, and then we'll go to Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. State Senator Mark Ryan, representing Senate District 32, all of Chisago counties, and most of Isanti County, just north of the metro area. I lived there I moved there in 2007 with my wife Cindy, with 3 adult boys and 6 grandchildren. And glad to be back on state government. It's been my life, so I'm looking forward to serving with all of our new members as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Curran. Glad to have you back. As well as Senator Carlson. We served together over the last 4 years, so good to have you both back. Senator Clausen, welcome. You're a new member of the committee, but not to the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning. Greg Clausen here, member of the Senate, serving the communities of Apple Valley, Rosemont, Northeast Lakeville, and the community of Coates. I always tell people, if you are aware of where the Minnesota Zoo is located. If you're familiar with the Umore property, which is the Minnesota Agricultural Station in Rosemont, and also the Flint Hills Refinery, that's my area. I'm happy to be part of the committee, Madam Chair and committee members. I did serve on state government my first term, and it's a pleasure to be back. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator Clausen. Glad to have you on this committee and glad you had some of that experience. That's always helpful to bring that with you. So welcome. Next, we will go to Senator Osmic, and then we'll have Senator Fateh.
Hi, everyone. State Senator Dave Osmic. I represent District 33, which is the west side of Hennepin County, and a flag section of Chanhassen. It's for my first time on the committee. I point out, I think I'm in an empty room. So I am here today. I know that we're all Zooming, and that's fine. I am going to try and do as much as I can here locally because I believe firmly that we get more done in this building than we do if we're just making phone calls. So, but that's my personal opinion. First time to the committee, and I did prior to the legislature, I did serve for almost 12 years on a city council. So I'm very familiar with state and local issues. And I did serve previously for 4 years on Senator Hall's local gov committee. So there's some commonality there.
Thank you very much, Senator Osmic. We appreciate you being here, and I would agree that being in person in the office, living in over an hour's drive away, I find that I'm having to figure out this new way of things that I have to do. So, but I would agree with you that being there is much better. Okay, next we'll go to Senator Fateh, newly elected senator, so welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Omar Fateh, representing District 62, which is in South Minneapolis. I look forward to working with all of you and learning from you all and getting to know you guys as well. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Senator Fateh. And then we'll go to Senator Pratt.
Well, good morning. Eric Pratt. I represent Senate District 55, which is Scott County. So I have the communities of Prior Lake, Shakopee, Jordan, and 6 townships. It's my first time on the committee, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Senator Pratt. We're glad to have you. Sometimes having, this is a great mix of returning members that have state gov experience, but it's also good to have some of those new members as well to take another look at it. I know that as senators, many of us, we voted on these bills on the Senate floor. We've seen them re-referred to other committees and have heard the subject matter there. So it isn't as though when we get to the Senate chamber that we are unfamiliar at all. I mean, this is a lot of work and a lot of things that go through presenting your own bills at times. So, but it is different than serving on the committee itself. And if going to that, we recognize that the committee itself, we do a lot of work. It's very important that we do, but it is also important that we have our staff here as well. And so we will go next to having the introduction of the staff that we have and how much we appreciate them. I know that their work has also changed in regards to location, but otherwise their work is the same. I do miss seeing staff and meeting in person with them, and we are hoping that sometime in the future that this will change. It needs to change because I would agree, we do better work when we are in the building together. So with that, Senate committee staff, I'm going to start with our committee administrator. And Alec, if you'd introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alec Bjorn. I'm the committee administrator for this committee, as well as Senator Cran's Technology and Reform Committee. I have been with the Senate since 2014. Before this position, I was working as the CLA for Senator Weber. I'm excited to tackle all these issues with you guys and really get down to work. So I'm really excited to be here. And if you need anything from me, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Alec. And then we will go to, we have our Senate research. We have the nonpartisan research. We actually have 2 because Ms. James and Ms. Stengel both serve this committee, but in two different subject areas. So I'm going to start with you, Ms. James, and for you to introduce yourself and tell us your subject areas.
Madam Chair and members, Stephanie James, I'm Senate Counsel assigned to this committee as well as to Senator Curran's Technology Committee and to the Capital Investment Committee. Happy to work with you all to accomplish what you want to for State Gov. I've been staffing State Gov since 2012. And so our jurisdiction, which we'll come to after introductions here, has both state government issues and elections issues, and I handle everything except elections. And as Lexi will tell you, she handles the elections topics.
Thank you very much, Ms. James. I appreciate your support. Ms. Stengel.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is Alexis Stengel. I usually go by Lexi. It's nice to be here with all of you. I've been staffing the elections area since 2011. Over the years, elections has sort of moved around to a variety of different committees. So I can help all of you with issues related to elections and campaign finance, and then Steph handles everything else. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stengel. I believe you also support transportation.
Madam Chair, that's correct. I also do transportation and redistricting.
Okay. I can see we're going to be seeing a lot of each other, Ms. Stengel, being on all three of those committees, and that's always a pleasure. Okay, and with that, we also have a very important person to our committee, and that is the fiscal analyst for the committee, Mr. Erickson. Would you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Andrew Erickson. I'm the fiscal analyst for the State Government Committee. I've been with the Senate since 2013, with Senate Counsel since 2016, and now on the State Gov, assigned to the State Gov Committee since the 2019 session. So this will be my third session with the committee. I also staff redistricting and the Veterans and Military Affairs Committees. If you need fiscal notes or any questions related to things like that, I'm here to help. I'm also responsible for tracking the proposed spending in this area, so you'll see spreadsheets occasionally that are posted to the Senate website that come from me.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson. And you also deal with the fiscal notes when you talk about financial. Wonderful, that's great. We also have partisan committee members as well. So I'll start with Mr. Wiley, if you would introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Joey. I'm the Senate Republican researcher for the State Government Finance and Policy and Elections Committee. It's not my first year doing this. This will be my second session on this committee. Very much so looking forward to hitting the ground running here. I've been with the Senate since 2017, and I also cover any other local government issues or any other subcommittees within state and local government. So happy to be here, and thank you for the time to introduce myself, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley. Mr. Majuris, you are next, I think, to introduce yourself. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Ryan Majuris. I'm DFL Senate Research. I've been with the Senate since 2011, and I've covered State Gov since 2013. Happy to be here.
Good. Thank you very much. I'm glad to have you all here. Appreciate that very much. And I would say probably who we are is very important, but it's also very important in realizing that the work that we do and our committee, when you hear about transportation, you will hear about what that is involved, but it's mainly all transportation, in this case, transportation, public safety, but it's a fairly narrow but very large budget. So State Government Committee, we have a very wide committee jurisdiction. And so we have three major agencies, and then we have many others as well. So to kind of gather what that all is, I'm going to have our Senate Counsel, Ms. James, go over the jurisdiction, which we did somewhat, but that was broader, Ms. James, but this is more within only state government. So if you go through the jurisdictions that and an overview, I think you as staff had some information that you wanted to, that we have asked you to cover in regards to an overview. If you could just take it from there, Ms. James.
Madam Chair and members, the jurisdiction list for committees has not been posted yet. We have a tentative list For the State Government Committee, it'll be largely what you are familiar with if you served on State Gov last biennium, with the exception that the technology components have been removed, and then redistricting has been removed. State government has a wide-ranging portfolio, and as Senator Kiffmeyer noted, it's not completely intuitive what all is included. The first and most important thing to know is that the Senate rules specify certain responsibilities for the State Government Committee. Rule 4.5 requires that all bills that delegate rulemaking have to be heard in state government before final passage. Also, Rule 4.6 provides that any legislation that establishes a new multi-member agency has to, if there are appointments of legislators to those bodies, those have to come through the committee. The jurisdiction list also identifies that a host of topics that are within this committee's jurisdiction. You'll have responsibility for bills that deal with state employee compensation, public employee labor relations contracts, pensions, all gambling and gaming, and lotteries and parimutuel wagering, and also the structure of the legislature. Also, any bills that transfer duties from one agency to another are the responsibility of state government. For purposes of budget oversight or budgeting, you have responsibility for the constitutional officers and also any sort of substantive legislation regarding those offices. The Department of Administration, Management and Budget, and the Department of Revenue. Also, the Office of Administrative Hearings, which hears administrative matters. Several professional licensing boards, the Board of Accountancy and Architecture and Barbers and Cosmetologists. Some additional boards and commissions, including a bunch of legislative commissions, the Legislative Advisory Commission, the Legislative Audit Commission, the LBO, and the LBO Oversight Commission. Also, the Commission on Pensions. As I noted, the gaming and gambling areas, the State Lottery, the Racing Commission, and the Gambling Control Board. Some items related to procurement, the Designer Selection Board, the Executive Council, the Governor's Residence Council, the Humanities Center, the Historical Society. Also, all of the pension plans are, and those systems are within the jurisdiction of this committee. You'll also have responsibility for several confirmations. One is the Commissioner of Administration, the Arts Board, which has 3 open seats at the moment, the Gambling Control Board Director, the Gambling Control Board membership, and there are 2 open seats there at the moment, the Chief Administrative Law Judge, the Racing Commission, which has 9 members with 1 open seat at the moment, and the State Lottery Director. I think those hit the high points of the committee's jurisdiction. It is definitely far-ranging, and so there's lots to learn for new members, and it's always something new for me too.
And thank you very much, Ms. James. I appreciate that presentation. It always still is good to kind of get a hold of that list. So members, many times you're going to be seeing bills come before this committee, either starting or else coming through. And already as bill introductions are going on, we are getting those things ready. Ms. Stengel, did you need to do a portion of this as well, right? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and members. Briefly, again, I cover all of the election issues. What this means as far as jurisdiction, the committee has jurisdiction over all bills relating to elections, ethical practices for public officials, and campaign finance laws. That the committee also has jurisdiction over the Campaign Finance and Public Disclosure Board and confirms the 6 members that serve on that board. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Stengel. And then Mr. Erickson, on the financial thing, did you cover that or can we go in more detail?
Madam Chair, I think we can go into just a little more detail, and I have just a short set of slides that I have as a PDF that I just would like the committee to take a peek at. I'm going to do this very, very high level. A more detailed spreadsheet is going to be available towards the end of this week or the beginning of next. because of the wide breadth of the committee's jurisdiction, it can take a little time to get all of the portions whipped into shape for proper posting. I'll also just put in a little plug that in the first or second week of February, the Senate Fiscal Analysis staff typically does a budget briefing aimed at orienting members to their new jurisdictions. And so a more detailed version of this will be presented then. This is just a chart showing the relative size of the various agencies under state government with respect to their general fund expenditures. You can see that revenue is approximately 1/3 of the general fund spending in the state gov area, the legislature at about 1/5, pensions at 17%, and then everything else slightly smaller. Again, I'm not going to go through all of this in detail. I think it'll be more useful to do that once we see the governor's recommendations, but these numbers will be available on the spreadsheet for folks to take a closer look at. This is what built to that pie chart. Just to call out a couple of the larger changes, you'll see this first column was the estimated expenditures for the current biennium we're in. This middle column is the forecast expenditures for the biennium this committee will be appropriating for. In the change is the change from one year to the next. The legislature appears to decrease quite a bit from one biennium to the next. This is a result of the way that MMB accounts for the carry forward. They assume that the carry forward authority that the legislature has will be spent in the current biennium. But of course, anything that isn't actually spent will carry forward again, but that causes this blip here. For the constitutional officers, there's some increase for a couple offices having to do with the way that operating adjustments were structured in the last biennium. The Secretary of State decreases. This is reflective of the one-time HAVA appropriation matches that occurred in the last biennium. And of course, the presidential primary will decrease because we're not holding a presidential election this year or this biennium. There's various boards, commissions, and councils. You'll see those changes are relatively small, basically because the operating adjustments stay flat from year to year and set the base in a way to keep them relatively level. These occupational licensing boards are very similar to those councils. I would only note on these boards that they all receive appropriations from the general fund, but do collect fees that are deposited into the general fund as non-dedicated receipts, meaning there's an offset to the general fund for the spending that you actually see here, but it is not tied specifically to the agency's funding levels. As Ms. James noted, that you have jurisdiction for retirement funds. The appropriations for the pension aids have been set in past pension bills and are found in statute because of the statutory changes that have happened over the last several years relating to those pension funds. And then there are the executive branch agencies. Here, I'll actually go into a little bit more depth on those in the next couple of pages here. And then the quasi-state agencies, the Historical Society, Humanities Commission, and then some other grants that admin operates. This is the all funds pie. So this is not just the general fund expenditures. A lot of this is the money that you don't see moving through, the main fund balance that most of us are familiar with, but reflects the total spend done in the state government area. You'll see that revenue that had been 1/3 of the general fund is only 13% when you're looking at total spending, and Minute, which had been a relatively small piece of this pie, does actually a very large piece of spending. It's just done outside the general fund in either the special revenue fund or in the Minute fund, which are either chargebacks to agencies for the services that Minute provides, or special projects that they contract with Minute to conduct. Admin, also the Department of Administration, also has a slightly larger piece of the pie. And then again, here's the rest. Again, here's the, oh, sorry, did I hear? Okay, so again, here's the piece that builds to that pie chart. I again don't intend to spend a lot of time looking at these numbers. These usually are called out on that detailed spreadsheet, but I would be happy to speak with any of you further if you have specific questions about a type of fund, a specific agency, or anything like that. I'll maybe call out just a couple of these where there's some apparent lopsidedness. So for instance, the State Investment Board has a very, very small general fund appropriation, only 278,000, but you'll see their total spend is closer to $17.6 million. That's the result that most of their agency is funded through charges to customers who use the State Board of Investment. Likewise, with the Office of Administrative Hearings, there's a relatively small general fund piece, but there is a large workers' compensation fund direct appropriation that is made by the committee. That's not a statutory appropriation. Here's minute. You'll see, as I mentioned, that there's a large special revenue and minute services fund spend in that area. I'll just call out for a second that the Department of Administration has this large enterprise and internal service fund line. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute as well. MNB also has a non-operating portion of their budget that is the result of sort of being the landing place for a variety of things that don't directly relate to the services that MNB provides, but that they act as a pass-through for. So because this is the 22-23 biennium, you won't see this, but for instance, the $200 million transfer from the general fund to the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund is a MNB non-operating expenditure. Let's see, I don't know that there's anything else that I wanted to specifically call out for their offer. Oh, yes, there is. The gambling related agencies did not appear on the first general fund page because they are entirely funded outside the general fund. Both the Gambling Control Board and Racing Commission collect licensing fees, and they are deposited not in the general fund, as for the occupational licensing boards, but into a special revenue fund account from which appropriations are made to those agencies for their operations. The lottery would also fall under being a gambling related agency, but they have an even more specific funding structure. They have a budget limit that is set in law, typically each biennium, but otherwise there's a statutory fallback. They're allowed to withhold a certain amount of revenue gained through the lottery for their own operations. And then finally, the pensions and a summary. Again, this summary will be available on that detailed spreadsheet. And then finally, just a word on the internal service funds, which are very common at admin, although a couple of other agencies have some as well. These include centralized services that the agency provides and for which there's a rate setting process, which is then charged back out to agencies utilizing those services. Just to take one example, Fleet Services is in charge of the vehicles owned by the state of Minnesota. And so this entails the people who are related to obtaining those vehicles and the purchase of those vehicles, depreciation on those vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. And once all of those operating revenues and expenditures are determined, that feeds into the rate setting system that admin will ultimately charge for agencies who use Fleet Services. The Minute Services Fund is similar, that being the fund from which agencies do volume-based purchasing for workstations and things like that. Finally, here's just a last informational page. Other sources of information, much of this was put together using the base budget books that MNB compiles a couple times each year. You'll see an updated version of those by the 4th Tuesday in January, which is the deadline for the governor to submit his recommendations for the upcoming biennium's spending. There will be a detailed tracking sheet that will be available on the Senate webpage on the Senate Fiscal Analysis link here. There is additional detail that I or other fiscal analysts can obtain for you from the various budget systems, or of course go to the legislative auditor if there's a specific agency that you have some interest in. They have historical reports posted there. And then finally, reach out to me, Andrew Erickson, if you have any questions about anything in the state government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Erickson. We may need that screen up again, but for now, I'm going to go to questions for Mr. Erickson, and we'll go first to Senator Pratt.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And I think my question was answered that one of the big differences between the first chart and the second chart was interagency transfers. And I think that's correct. And I see him nodding, so I'll take that as a yes.
Mr. Erickson, you need to unmute.
Still getting used to how you would do that with the screen shared. Madam Chair, Senator Pratt, depending on the agency, that would be correct. The difference from one biennium to another could depend on a couple of things, depending on which agency you're talking about, but that's absolutely one possibility.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Erickson. Any other questions, members? If you take down the screen sharing, Mr. Erickson, for now, so I can see the members. Thank you. Any other questions? Senator Howe? Do you have a question? It looks like you have a hand up on your screen.
No, I don't. No,
Okay,
I'm good.
Okay, all right, good. All right, question I have though for you, Mr. Erickson, is, or just one clarification. One of the things you said was retirement funds when talking about MSRS, some of that, and just so members understand, that's not the investment funds. This is for the operations of the agency itself, that portion that comes out of state government. Would you just clarify that, Mr. Erickson?
Yeah, the parts appropriated in the state government area are pension aids for the plans themselves.
Agency.
Yes, yes.
Okay. The other one is a question I have for you, Mr. Erickson, is in regards to that. So that's for the employees of the pension commission, or is that separate from? So there's SBI, State Board of Investments, and then there is the pension commission. Is that separated then?
Senator Kiffmeyer, yes, that's separated. The pension commission is funded through the LCC, so that would be included in the legislature's appropriation. Again, in the detailed spreadsheet that will be coming out, there'll be a more clear breakdown of the various components of the LCC that are funded, the various joint offices and commissions there. And the LCPR, the Legislative Commission on Pensions and Retirement, is one of those that receives a direct appropriation.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson. I just thought it was important for you members to have that clarified, especially for new members who might not be able to grab some of those things, but are important right now. Members, that completes our overview and our introductions and questions. And so I wanted to just let you know on the hearing tomorrow, we are going to have a large list of these agencies. You'll hear from them, not their budget. It's going to be an overview of what they do. And you've heard today a little bit about it. Now you'll hear and meet in many cases from the leaders of each of those agencies, whoever is able to do this. Again, it will be in Zoom. And so you will hear from them, and it's going to be a long list. And I don't know that we're going to have time for questions, so it's always nice. But remember, it's not the last time that you're going to see these folks. This is an opportunity for them to address us and give an overview in general of who they are and what they do. And you'll see them again when it comes to the budgeting time. So our goal is to get through all of those tomorrow so we can do that. We do have others, the balance of our committee area, just the overview and introductions, that will be on another day. And so we'll do that. We will be having committee hearings as scheduled each week. And just to let you know also for time planning, there are a lot of referrals that come to this committee from other committees, as Ms. James talked about, rulemaking, Senate or legislative member commissions, task forces and things. So a lot of bills, but oftentimes they come through just before deadline. We will have a very limited amount of time to do that. But just anticipate whether it's this committee or any other committee, but this committee has a lot of those. So we work very hard to facilitate and make sure that we can take care of that. But just to let you know, for time management, deadlines always are a challenge to get things through that we can. All right, with that, welcome to the State Government Policy, Finance, and Elections Committee, and our business being concluded for the day. I will yield back the balance of the time of this hearing to your other very important work. Thank you for attending. We are adjourned.